So, welcome. We're here tonight to discuss addiction, mental health, homelessness, recovery, and all sorts of related issues.
How you doing, Bren? Welcome to the bunker, and it's good to see you as usual. How's things?
And you, Garrett? Yeah, good to be here.
How was your journey up?
Grand, yeah, a bit of traffic, but fine, yeah.
Good. And how's things in the capital?
Grand, we're still winning, Sam. The usual.
Right. Very good. Bren, you have a remarkable story to tell. You've had a tremendous journey, and in that journey there's been a lot of twists and turns and bumps. How did that start off?
From a young age. From a very young age. I grew up, I was born actually only across the road in Donegal, in Killybegs. My father was a deep sea fisherman. My mother worked in
so you're really a Donegal man then. So one in the Sams, you're Dublin, it's not really a thing to do with you.
I'm glad you said that, because one time I really knew that I wasn't a Donegal man.
Right.
When Dublin were playing Donegal, and I was there, now come on Donegal, and next of all Donegal players were getting dirty, and I was there, yes. So I knew I was a dub.
You jumped ship. Go ahead.
Okay,
you jumped ship and you became a dub then.
Yeah, so I'm a plastic dub.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so like I grew up for the first 3 years of my life. It's quite strange because I don't remember my parents from that young age, 1, 2 and 3, and I really mean that. I don't have any memories of me ma and me dad at that young age. Like my dad was a deep sea fisherman. When he came in, he went to the pub. No doubt he came home at the times, and my mum was in work all day. So my granny for them first 3 years was
she was rarely. Both parents were working hard trying to make ends meet. Yep.
So all them early days, I just remember my granny, and that's the truth. Like I remember I used to love. She had a load of wrinkles, and I used to love rubbing my face against them. I always remember that. I loved my granny with so much. Like she meant so much to me. And we moved to Houghton, 1970. I was born in 67. I know I don't look a Kerry. And but I was born in 67. Yeah, moved to Houghton 1970, where my dad is from. My granny, she came with us, and I remember this such powerful emotion. She came with us and she stayed for about 2 weeks, and then she just disappeared. And no doubt that was to smooth us in. There's only me and my oldest brother. He's a year and a week older than me, and obviously my mum and dad. And she was just gone. And I remember that it's like someone cutting. So she just disappeared, and that connection was gone. And I remember
and you couldn't explain that at the time or tell people that, or you didn't?
No, I hadn't a clue what was going on, but I remember the longing inside me for her, and she came up a couple of times after that, but be a few years apart, but I remember I just had this huge longing for me and Nanny all the time, and I did go to Donegal as well over the few years. I think it was about 12 when she actually died, but I remember this huge thing. It's just cut, I was lost, and it's just a void, just a real void in my life. From then on, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to fill it. I didn't know. It was just a huge thing in my life. Really sad at the time. It really was.
You think that had a lasting effect on you? Had
an
impact on your life and where you ended up, the road you went down?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Now I did have a lot of, from a young age, anything I done, my dad was heavy-handed with the slaps. He was a very quiet man when he's sober, but when he had a drink, he'd clatter the head out of me, and you'd be getting clattered on a Saturday night for something that might have happened on a Monday or a Tuesday in school or whatever, And actually, now that I say that, I remember going to school on a Monday, and I was coming out of a weekend that was horrible, and right up to Wednesday, I'd be kind of recovering from that. And come Wednesday, I'd be fearing the next weekend, because I know my dad be coming up and seeing he'd be drinking and what I might have to face. Like, so I just lived in fear. It was like constant fear. Like, so it was savage. Like, it really was savage. Like, and so them young days, I really didn't know whether I was coming or going. I'd now understand. I remember thinking, am I adopted? Am I, like, someone's going to drive up here now and say, oh no, right, come on, you can come back now. The war is over, like. Yeah. And I mean that, like, I just didn't feel a part of. I didn't feel accepted. I didn't, nothing, like.
So what age were you when you started using, and what substance did you start with?
Nicotine was the first substance I ever used. And I remember not being afraid of taking it, and just the fear of taking it and the fear of the lads that I was with slagging me because I was afraid to take it if I told them was much greater.
Were they the same age as you, Bren?
Yeah, similar age.
Peer
within
pressure,
a year.
You think they felt the same too, or you?
They might have. Yeah, they might have. Most of them ended up messed up, actually, and most of them are dead now. But yeah, they might have. But we weren't at that place where we talk about that, about that fear, like. So I was more fearful of them slagging me,
than that,
and calling me a chicken or whatever, than doing it, like, And we used to follow this certain woman who used to throw the biggest butts away. We knew she'd always smoke half a cigarette going down the street. She'd throw the big butt away. So it's funny, actually. As bad as it is, it's funny, like. And I progressed on to then to the usual smoking hash. Ended up then going to sea as a young man. Left school at a young age. I craved the acceptance, you see.
You didn't believe you were getting it anywhere else.
No.
A group of friends and you try to impress them, and
like my mom, she had 8 children, 7 boys, 1 girl. She was trying to deal with her own demons and living with an alcoholic and all that kind of stuff going on as well. So there wasn't, I didn't feel, I knew she loved us, but I didn't feel I got what I needed, which is no fault of hers, like. She did the best that she could with the tools that she had, but I remember it progressed, and then we went on, and then when I went to sea at a young age, we started making money, and then once we came in, then we could buy what we wanted. So we were buying plenty of cider and buying plenty of hash, and then that progressed on to cocaine and stuff like that. Now, I didn't really like the cocaine and the speed and that kind of stuff. And I'd done all the magic mushrooms and all that stuff at that stage as well. But it just slowly but surely progressed. Everything surrounded the pub, I ended up then also selling some hash and stuff like that. I remember an experience, actually, because I ended up on heroin, but I remember an experience with this young lad who he came up looking for hash, and he had a fella that I knew who was on heroin. And I remember belittling him. I remember making him like, just get that junkie away from me. He's a rat. He's this and that,
Simply because he was on heroin.
Because he was on heroin, yeah. And
so he was down a grade. He was
down a grade. He was the lowest of the low in my book.
Didn't deserve even to get hash or even to be talked to.
A pure rat and all, which was not the case. It was just a perceived crap, listening to other people, and and I remember, actually, he's actually on my amends list, and I don't even know where he is nowadays. I know him well, if I seen him tomorrow, I'd know who he was. I won't mention his name because he's high on my amends list. Because I knew, like, years later how he must have felt, which was horrible, really, really horrible.
When you wore a t-shirt.
In later years. But I never knew that it would progress to that for me.
Yeah.
You know? And it was that sort of Johnny Big Ball stuff, you know, it's like just a load of crap, like portraying this image of something that I wasn't, you know. So yeah, it's quite sad, that kind of stuff. Really, really, really sad. Like, but again, it progressed. I went all over the place. I ended up using heroin myself and liking it. I thought, oh, this does it for me. Yeah, because I wanted to be a
You're aware of the dangers of heroin, did you? You know, you seen the junkie, you
else.
had this in your head, but you know, now I'm going to be on try heroin, but I'm not going to be like that guy that came to my door, or people that's
I'm above him.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be like that junkie over there. That won't happen to me. I'm too cute for that. You know, sad, really sad stuff. And very quickly it became a problem. Like, you know, I had someone really close to me who one day after using it for a little while went, this isn't right. I don't like the way I'm feeling here. You know, this is not right. Can't be using this and getting high like this, and then the lows like are making me, you know, withdraw, like, you know, or as people with alcoholism problems, the DTs, like, and he stopped, you know, where I didn't.
Did you have the same feelings as him?
The exact same.
Yeah.
The exact same.
And why didn't you stop? Why didn't you? You didn't think like that? You thought,
I didn't want to go through the withdrawals.
If you stay high long enough, you don't have a come down.
Yeah, and but you can't stay high enough. You'll always experience it, and then it just got worse. Progressed. I even progressed onto the needle, you know, and I ended up in prison and that. But before, well, even after that as well, I used to do the geographical. You know, I thought, well, look, if I take myself over there, and as a fisherman, I could go to any fishing port and get a job, like. So I do that, and I go all over the place. I went to different countries, all that stuff.
what age were you?
I think the first time I started travelling around, probably about 17, 18, when I first started travelling around on the boats. But when I got strung out on the heroin, that was a few years later, like, because I didn't really get strung out till my early 20s. But when I got strung out, and then I just started to realise this is a problem, like, I need to stop this. Like, I'd do the geographical, and I'd go off to Galway, to Cork, I'd done to Donegal, I went to different places, I went to different countries.
But the problem was following you.
Yeah, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't realise the problem's in me.
Yeah.
I thought the problem's there. If I get away from there and them, you know. And I remember one of the biggest things, like one of my worst experiences that happened as a result of my addiction. Now, other than how I felt about myself, was I went to a certain fishing village in a certain country, and I met this girl and fell in love. And I had told her that I used to be on heroin. Like, now, I'd never stopped drinking and smoking hash.
Do you replace the addiction? You replaced one, kept going?
Just one drug for another, but I was using them all the time. But I stopped using heroin. And that was my drug of choice, and that's the one that done it for me, like. But I stopped using that, and I had explained to her about that after a while, being with her, like. And I loved this woman, and this is not egotistical. She loved me, like 100%. She was committed. We got engaged, wanted to get married, and I had told this guy, a friend of mine, that I had used heroin before, and he told me that he had as well, but he had the odd dabble. And this day I was driving down, and she was in the car with me, and I seen him, and I just pulled over to say hello, and he says, "Oh, a bit of brown in the house, a bit of that brown," like. And I lit up like a candle, like, honestly, like I just lit up like a Roman candle. And it was like, because I'd known the mental defense against it, you know, and I'd been away from it for a few years. About 3 years I was completely away from it. I hadn't really seen anyone or nothing, you know. I was away, man. I was in and out at sea a lot as well, like. And but I remember lit up, like, you know, literally no mental defense. I'd know
you weren't prepared. You hadn't.
Yeah, I'd no recovery. I'd not. done meetings. I'd know, none of that stuff. I wasn't around people who would be talking about recovery or anything like that, or recovering from anything. And I just lit up. And I remember he gave me the key for his gaff, because he lived in the same house that I did, but it was 3-story, and we were in the basement. We had all the basement. There was someone above, and he was up on the top. So I had the key to his place. So I went up and I had a smoke, and it was like, I've arrived, And I know that sounds funny, or probably shocking, not funny, but it did it for me, really did it for me again. Like, and you see, I forgot the pain and the misery that sent me running in the first place. You were in a better place.
You had a partner. Things were going okay, and
I forgot about the downside of getting high. There's a price to pay with getting high.
Would you call that a moment of madness, or?
Oh, pure madness, pure madness. But it's only in hindsight, that's all. Just knowing what I know now, like. But at the time, it was like, hey, great,
And then where was the fiance at this stage? What happened?
Oh, well, I dropped her in. She went into the house. She didn't know what I was doing. She hadn't a clue, And like when I was talking to him about, he was standing, so she couldn't even see his face. And he just went, a bit of brown down in the house.
Did you tell her after, or did you lie about it?
No, I lied through my teeth, yeah. So what I done was, the next day, I says, can you get another bit of that to him? And he says, yeah, I'll sort it out later on. No, come on, jump in the car, I'll bring you. Give you a lift. And the reason I wanted to do that was so I could hide it from him, find out where he was getting it, so I could go myself, and that's what happened, because when we got there, he brought me in and I met the dealer, and I knew where he lived now, so I didn't have to let anyone else know.
You were planning ahead.
Yeah,
I could keep going getting it,
as devious as they come,
and put the plan in place, hide it from everybody, hide it from him, and exactly. He not knowing much I'm taking.
Yeah. So, and then look, that turned into a real shit show, like where when she was seeing me, and she was seeing everything, like she could see me goofing off, all that stuff, and she'd never experienced it in her life at all.
She's in a different person, effectively.
Yeah. She lost the man she loved, to the drug, like, and not only that, she watched it, and then I made her think that she was mad. I was there like, no, I'm not. Don't be stupid. Why you're off your head. I'm not using it here. But she could see it, like. But
you couldn't see you were losing her?
No. Well, I kind of could, but I didn't think that it would actually happen, But I became a slave to the drug again.
Did you care?
Oh, I cared.
But did you pick the heroin over her?
I did, 100%. 100% the drugs came first. Savage stuff, like really, really savage stuff.
It's difficult for you to understand. So for some people who have never experienced that, will find difficult sometimes to understand. Addiction is a horrible sickness, and really bad thing, and a lot of people don't understand what somebody who's addicted is going through.
When I was robbing to get drugs, when it got so bad that I was actually out robbing, I was unemployable, all that stuff, and I was out robbing. Like, I would rob anything. I didn't care.
Breaking the houses, going
to anything,
children's bedrooms.
I would sell your great grandmother's wedding ring that you have in your family for 200 years. I would sell that in a minute, in a heartbeat, for just 120 bag of heroin.
Knowing that the devastation that would cause.
Wouldn't even think of that.
Wouldn't come in.
You wouldn't think of it. Wouldn't even think of it, like.
Kids' money boxes.
Yeah. No bother. I've often smashed a piggy bank open. See, for me, because of the morals and values that I did have, when I would get me drugs into me, that's when I'd have no peace. Because I used to think of that child maybe finding their money box smashed open, or that woman coming home and finding her front door kicked open, or maybe the glass window smashed, and how she felt. Do you know what I mean?
You actually thought about that?
Yeah.
Went through
100%. But you see, when I get sick again, I do the exact same thing. Like. So once that heroin started wearing off of me and I started to get sick again, I needed to get money. And I would do the exact same thing again, like. So it was just a vicious circle really feeling really crap about myself, you know, and then I needed to escape that, as well as the physical withdrawals that I'd be getting only hours later.
A nightmare, a living
nightmare,
hell. Particularly when you have them, when you know you're doing something wrong and you can't help it, and then you're left with that torment, that guilt, that turmoil, inner turmoil. But then you're sick. I need to do the same thing again.
I need to get. And even when I was dealing drugs, the problem with that was, right, I didn't have to rob and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I had to duck and dive from the police, but my habit got bigger because I'd use more, you know. So I'd sell. I'm just making this up, right? I sell 2 bags. That means I get 1 free for myself. You get me?
Yeah.
Don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah, what I did anyway. Well, the only reason I was selling drugs was for my own supply. But it's like your habit. My habit just went through the roof, like. So it's just misery, more misery, regardless of having a pound in your pocket.
It's not as if you were dealing drugs and putting money away for.
Or big cars, none of that stuff.
Pumping more shit into your system and.
Yeah, just applying my own habit. Yeah, that's all.
So what happened when you say you hit rock bottom? What was the?
When I found myself sitting on the Halfpenny Bridge with a cup in my hand, and my spirit shattered, broken. I used to wear the scarf to here and a hat down to here. I didn't want anyone to see me, and believe it or not, eventually, I didn't even bother with that. I was that broken, like. My spirit was shattered.
Just stripped you down and broke you and took everything.
I shattered, yeah. My self-esteem was just, spirit was gone, shattered. And many a time the sitting on the Halfpenny Bridge over the Liffey looked attractive. But I didn't have the guts to do it. Thank God, you know. Really didn't. And do you know what? There's a few times on that bridge I'd really some horrible stuff happened to me, like, really. And had some lovely stuff happen to me, lovely spiritual moments that I missed along the way. But I know now, like, you know, where
it's hard to imagine being a slave to heroin, sitting in a city centre, on the bridge in the city centre of Dublin, begging for money to pump into your body. And there's positive aspects of that.
Yeah.
Just as a people,
some people would throw something in your cup and keep walking, like, but some people would stop and they come down on their hunkers, and they'd sit beside you and chat to you for a minute and
looked at you as a human being.
Yeah. There's one guy, he owns the shoe shop straight across from the Halfpenny Bridge. Lovely man. He always treated me really well. And when I actually got clean, I used to go in and buy me Doc Martens off him.
Right.
And he always
remember you,
cut price. Yeah, he remember me well. He used to change me coins for me.
Right.
I was always respectful to him, and I was never
aggressive.
No, I was always respectful. He's always and he still is a terrible nice man. Like, if I drop in, how are you, Brendan? How are you doing? You know.
But if you hadn't got that money and you were sick, you'd have robbed them.
Oh, like a lie, a lie.
Absolutely, it's
yeah. But as I say, look, I remember one time, and I was the type of fella that would stand up for himself. I wouldn't cause trouble, like that. Like, but I wouldn't give shit. I wouldn't hate shit. Therefore, I didn't really get much shit. But I remember this guy. There was a few of them. It's like a stag or something. And this guy, there might have been a McDonald's, I don't know, but it was a milkshake, and he threw it, and it went all over me. And I was just sitting on the bridge, like, and I didn't even have it in me to just stand up and throw a hook at him.
Did he do it deliberately? Yeah.
Yeah. Now his mates were really annoyed with him. You know, he had a couple of drinks on him, but they were really, really annoyed with him. Like, sorry and all that stuff. But I was just so broken, like, that I couldn't even get up and stand up for myself. Like, really, really shattered. I got lucky. Now this is going to sound strange. I got lucky. I stood back up. I started selling drugs again, and I got lucky. I got caught. So I ended up down 2 years. And during them 2 years, I was looking around me, the usual madness back in the jail, just the crack with drugs and all sorts. And this guy had said something about someone, and that someone had taken their own life in the prison. And he said something that he didn't mean anything bad by, but the way the story went back to someone else and went back to someone else is like he was
Chinese
slagging the person off when he wasn't. He wasn't slagging the person. But anyway, so there was a hit put on him, and the hit was there was 5 bags of heroin and 5 prison bags, tiny little things, little tiny things. Like, you know, if you coughed, you'd blow them all away. And a guy took up the hit, and he was told to make sure he cut him across the mouth, which he did. And
symbolic reason, slabbering.
Yeah, well, the hit was put on him, and they say make sure, you cut that fella across the mouth. So the fella took up the hit. He did the hit. He didn't get caught, and your man didn't say who it was, right? And that evening, I bounced over into that fella's cell, the fella that took up the hit, and I said to him, "What the fuck, man? What are you at, like?" You know. And I got on really well with this fella. You know, I was in the same landing as him, and I was across the landing from him, like. And there's a few bags on that brain, you know, just, you know. I mean, the bloke's scared for life, like, you don't even know him. He
didn't do anything on him.
He done nothing to him, you know. And anyway, look, I ended up going back to my cell, and anyway, that evening, and I was just thinking about the power that this has over us. Yeah. Now, I'd no understanding.
You're still using it that time, Brendan?
Yeah. So I'd no understanding of the disease of addiction. I'd no mental defence against it, but I just knew the power this has over us, that we'll do this stuff.
Does prison work?
No, prison doesn't work in my book.
What was the turning point? What made you start to realise and think differently?
Yeah, that. You know? That.
There's some questions. There's a question.
There's a couple relevant ones here. Was there help to turn to that you got you on your road to recovery, or did you have to go it alone?
No. I that was it for me. That point, I was in the cell later.
So you realised yourself, there's
something wrong
madness
here.
Like, I need to do something.
Yeah, like I'm not going to them counsellors. I'm not going to treatment. What do they know? You know, and plus there's dark stuff that human beings have anyway. And I thought, if I go to them counsellors, they'll see all that stuff in my head, right? So I just thought, I don't need counsellors and all that stuff. But this was different.
Is that as a result of the drugs, or
it was like
developing mental health problems, or what? The dark stuff. I'm not asking what it is.
Well, no,
but
it's a human thing.
A human thing, just that. Yeah,
it's a human thing. Most humans have dark thoughts. Yeah, it's nothing to do with drugs.
Right.
It's just part of being human. But I remember I just said, there's something wrong here. Like, I mean, the power that this has brought me to my knees. Now, I wasn't the one that done cutting or anything like that, but it's
still very traumatic. You're seeing it. It probably wasn't the only one you witnessed. You probably had many dark nights in there witnessing stuff. You know, jails are not particularly, you remember, good places.
I'm recalling stuff here now in minutes here. Yeah. You know, I spent years and years in addiction, years and years in a savage place. Like, I forget most of this stuff. Yeah. Honestly, like, really, and I'll never be able to say it, no matter how many podcasts I'll do, explain all the darkness and the madness and the nightmares that occurred. But in that evening, I just said, I need to do something about this. And I remember talking to this fella the next day, and I said, I'm getting out of here, where'll I go? And he says, he knew a jail down the country. He says, look, go. He says, there's drugs there, but you have a better chance than you have here. I went into the governor and I asked for a transfer. And I said to him, I need to get away from the drugs. Like, I can't stop on my own. Like, I just can't stop. I was on methadone in the prison. I wasn't getting any visits, because my brother, who was visiting me, who used to bring drugs up to me, he got clean. The cheek of him. He got clean, so my visits stopped. So my drugs were no longer coming in. So I ended up buying shop orders, like literally getting 20 quid's worth of whatever the dealer wanted. Like if he wanted a few batteries and a few biscuits or something, or whatever, he'd throw you a bag for getting the shop order. You know what I mean? And that's how I paid for it, like. And it was madness, like. It was just, I was prolonging this thing in me, like. But I went to the governor, looked for a transfer. I ended up getting a transfer a couple of months later, like. And when I got to the prison that I ended up in, I worked with the welfare. And back then you would have got slagged for working with the welfare. Like, oh, you're doing it rough, you're going in crying to the welfare and all this stupid childish behaviour.
Nonsense.
Crap. But I know that now is a little bit more mature, but just that childish behaviour of other people. And God bless them, because they don't really know what they're at neither. Like,
what age were you around this time?
I was around 36. So I ended up, as I said, I got the transfer. I started working with the welfare, and he suggested a certain treatment centre, and I went, right, whatever it takes, I need to address this. And so I went to the treatment centre, and at the end of my sentence, now I was lucky, I got temporary release, TR, to that treatment centre. And then I started to look at why I used drugs. I started to look at my behaviour and how I was thinking. And there was a lot of stuff challenged in me, and I just started to change. And then I got a bit of hope. I said, I can do this.
You started feeling better about yourself?
Yeah, I can do this. I can actually change here.
Bit of self-belief.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I was off the methadone. I was awake. I was alive again. I was actually alive again. I hadn't been alive in years, with no alcohol, no hash, no nothing, not a single nicotine substance. No, I was still smoking cigarettes.
Which was the hardest of all of those to quit?
The hardest I ever gave up was nicotine. Much harder than heroin. Mentally, the craving and compulsion. But but in the treatment centre, I really learnt a lot about myself. But I was lucky, because in that treatment centre, people would talk about NA, Narcotics Anonymous. Now I don't represent Narcotics Anonymous, but they were talking about NA. And then my brother, he was going to NA. He was finished in his treatment centre, and he was going to NA, and he was coming up visiting me in the treatment centre. And he was telling me what he was doing and stuff like that. And I went, I'm going to give this a go. Sure, if I fail, I can go back to the drugs and the misery, if I want, So that was it. I started to change, and then I got an opportunity to go into education. My worker in the treatment centre, great man, he's actually the manager of that same treatment centre now. He's actually a friend. I would class him as a friend. But he had someone coming up to me. I could read and write, but my writing wasn't great, and I wanted to do something. So he had someone from Dublin Adult Learning Centre coming up to the treatment centre every Friday and help me with me reading and writing. And I progressed fairly quickly. And then I went to a day programme, which was Solskjaer day programme in Dublin, in Dublin 1. Great people, and great place. Educational based and recovery. And so I done some FETech level 3 and 4 with them.
What's that, Brendan?
It's basically, it's a low level. It's like your junior cert.
Right. Probably like GCSEs.
Yeah,
or something like that.
So then I got an opportunity to do community development, a level 5, and I got the best learning of my life in it. Well, not the best learning of my life, but in terms of when I came to academia, I had to do a 1,000-word essay. And I thought, 1,000-word essay? How on earth am I going to write a 1,000-word essay? Seriously, I'm not going to be able to do that, right? So I didn't even try. And at the end, I went every day. It was for a half a day on a Friday, for whatever weeks it was, 12 or 15 weeks, whatever it was. It wasn't a major amount. And I didn't hand in no essay. Didn't do the assignment. I got a certificate of completion because I didn't miss a day, but I didn't get the level 5. And I remember going back to Solskjaer and saying it to them. And I said, the 1,000-word essay, I was just looking at the height of this mountain, You didn't try. I didn't look at the rock in front of me and just get over that. And I really felt I didn't feel good about myself. And because a guy said to me, and I was taking the piss out. He says, Brendan, how do you eat an elephant? And I'm there, what's an elephant got to do with it? Like, and he's, no, how do you eat an elephant? And I said, with a knife and fork, you know. And he went, no, if you had to eat an elephant, Brendan, how would you eat it? Like, and I says, will you stop, you know? Like,
Are you on drugs?
and he was being honest, but he was just giving me, you know. And he says, you'd eat it a piece at a time, but regularly, so it doesn't go off. Like, and I got what he meant, because he was applying that to the assignment.
Yeah.
He says, just a little piece at a time, and just keep at it, and before you know it, it'll be done, you know. So they minute were starting a return to education, and I says, I'm in it, I'm on it. Put my name down, and off I went. I got first class honours.
Brilliant. Because
I applied myself. So I got the opportunity then to do a certificate and diploma. I got first class honours. That was in addiction counselling, and that was with UCD and Merchants Key, Ireland. And then I got the opportunity from that to do an honours degree, and then from that, all in UCD, and I got the opportunity then to do a master's degree, and I went on and done that. And all the while I was doing that, I was becoming an accredited addiction counsellor, you know.
Through that whole time period, were you always honest about your own background and journey and where you come
100%, yeah. But here's the key. While I was doing that, and through them years of doing that, I was addressing my addiction every day.
Were you carrying baggage and demons and and as you called it, the amends list?
Yeah. So what I done was, and which was the message that Narcotics Anonymous carried to me, was that I find you as a sponsor and do the 12 steps. And out of the 12 steps, I got principles. And when I started applying them spiritual principles to my life just got better.
That's obviously a formula. It would be a universal formula, be used everywhere, the 12 steps and principles.
AA use it, Alcoholics Anonymous use the 12 steps. GA uses, which is Gamblers Anonymous. SA codependency groups use it. They are, there's lots of them that use the 12 steps. So it's just tools for recovery, you know. Like, one of the hardest things I was told to do that I would experience would be writing a fourth step, you know, taking a moral inventory, like looking at all my harms, looking at resentments, looking at all harms, you know, and the baggage and the wreckage of me past.
What does that mean, Bren?
Which,
you know, looking at the harms, does that
the
mean
harms
go into yourself and look?
Yeah.
That to me seems even alien, because, you know, I'm not sure, but men in particular don't want to talk about things. They don't want to. They would rather bury things and, you know, close that door and just plow on.
Yeah, but the great thing about this is that you find a sponsor and you build a relationship with another man, and if it's a woman, another woman, right? And you build a relationship that you feel comfortable to speak about anything. So all the demons and the dark stuff and the stuff that you don't feel good about yourself, that you might have done, or your behaviours, or what was done to you, you're able to open up to another human being and go through it with that other human being, you know. But it's someone you pick that you know has gone through that stuff,
somebody to be trained
and is
and
walking
qualified.
the steps. No, they don't need to be qualified. They just
the dangers of that
to
me would be that you could open a can of worms, you know, and maybe, you know, not get.
Yeah.
It could lead you to, you know, a very difficult place that, you know.
It can, it can. Like.
But
the great thing
better
about
than getting it out than keeping it in.
I'm only talking about this step in particular, right? Yeah. But there's 3 steps before it, like, you know, looking at your powerlessness, first of all, you know, over the disease of addiction, which is nothing to do with drugs. Do you know? The drugs for me were the solution to that, you know?
Yeah.
It was within
whatever the issues
myself
were, you turned to drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is there people that turn to drugs and don't have the addiction? You know, that you know, is it possible? You know, I've heard of people saying most drug users aren't addicted.
Just recreational.
You know, recreational and not and
probably is most. Yeah, loads of people use drugs and they can walk away. Like, but I don't know. I can only speak for myself. Yeah, and that's the truth. Like, I only know how it impacts me. So that's why I choose today not to take anything at all. So I can't really say for anyone else, you know.
When's the last time that you took anything? How many years now?
I'm 17 and a half years clean now. God willing, if I make it as far as the 2nd of February 24, I'll be 18 years clean.
From everything?
From everything except nicotine. I gave up nicotine when I was about a year clean. So I'm about 16 and a half years off nicotine, which is a nasty drug, let me tell you. And one of the hardest drugs I ever gave up. You know?
A horrible drug, and
it's a horrible drug.
Damage, you know, the amount of diseases and that it costs, and then the money paid to try and, you know, treat people, you know.
Yeah.
Bren, we have a few questions here, and one is from Liam. It says, with the country's first medically supervised drug injection facility given the green light in Merchants Quay, what is your opinion on these facilities?
Great.
Well, what is that? What's happened?
It's an
have
injection.
You been in it, or?
Yeah, no, I haven't been in it. But I know the CEO at the time who really took this up, which was Tony Gagan, a great human being, and battled for a long time and a lot of resistance. And the same with the harm reduction stuff in terms of, and this is harm reduction, but in terms of needle exchange, like there was madness going on over that. You know, like
a lot of people opposed it.
You had hepatitis, HIV getting spread left, right, and centre, like, because people were sharing the one needle, like, you know what I mean? You had groups of people sharing needles, and then when they said, "No, look, we'll give them the needles." What? You'll give them the needles? Are you crazy? You know.
Why do you think that reaction is? Why do people? They just, you know, you're going to give them needles. Why would they be? You know, is it ignorance? Is it lack of knowledge?
Lack of education. Lack of genuine education around the subject. And
is it tacit approval and enabling if you're...
I guess maybe that's the way they would think, yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing, yeah. They think, oh, you're going to give them needles? What are you doing that for? That's madness. Sure, now they can use what they want. But it's not about that. People will find a way. It's as simple as that. And if it means they'll share someone else's dirty needle, that's what they'll do. And that's the power of addiction. Like, you have to get that stuff into you.
Yeah.
So why not give them brand new needles that only that one person is going to use? Like, will you hope that one person is going to use? And you have sin bins that they can put it in there instead of throwing it in a field or in behind a bush or whatever, like. And that when they bring them back, you'll give them more, like. It just makes so much sense. But at the time, the lack of education, all that kind of stuff, the resistance to it. So the same as this. So they're thinking, oh, there's going to be dealers outside and there's going to be this and blah, blah, blah. But really, when you have safe injecting rooms, you're not having people hiding behind the bush. A lot of users use on their own. They don't be in groups of 4 and 5. So when they're going to have a turn on, like go and inject, they're going behind a bush or behind a wall somewhere or whatever. If they OD, they're left there. So if they OD in these injection centres, there's staff there that can deal with professionals.
There's another question about with the rising numbers of addiction and related mental health problems. How do you see future plan out? As existing and proposed medical facilities enough to deal with issues? I suppose it's very similar to the previous question, but is there enough facilities? Is governments? They're not. Yeah.
No. Not even close. I mean,
do you think there's a class thing in all of this too? Because I mind a few years ago there was somebody who died. There was a girl who died, and she was from, you know, and there was a complete contrast. Whilst people are dying of addiction on
every
a daily
day
basis, but when somebody who's related to somebody or of a different class, then there's an outpouring of horror and
in the States originally there was a big race element to it as well.
No, without a doubt it's a class thing. The funny thing is that the real numbers that are addicted can never really be counted.
No, it's hidden, is it?
Well, the middle class don't present. You won't see the middle class really. You might get the odd one, all right, presenting at Merchants Quay and registering or anything like that. Like,
but they're all at it, like.
Yeah, so what they do is they have the money to go way off to the Prairie or go to anywhere in America, these ranches in America and hide away, whereas you know.
But it's rampant. Drugs use is rampant. You know, I think they done swabs in places like Leinster House and all over. You know, and there was traces of cocaine everywhere. So there's a lot of drug use, but there's a lot of people in denial. You talk about the war on drugs. You know, it's not working.
No,
you know, you said yourself, jails isn't working. There's another question about what do you think of the Portuguese model? I know it's a very, you know, it's
complex enough. I think we're going to have to do a whole podcast on
you
that
would need it,
but I'd be interested just to talk about decriminalization, legalization, all those kind of issues.
Yeah, I believe 100% in decriminalization. Like, I mean, I have convictions for importation. Like, for being caught with 3 bags, if you're caught with 3 bags, you're done for supplying. Like, and everybody, if you get your dowel, or if you get 50 quid, you could buy 3 bags for 50 quid. But if you were seen buying them and the next of all a copper grabs you and you open your hand and there's the 3 bags and you get nicked for it, you're done for supplying. And really, it's the sensible thing to do. Now, I don't mean a sensible thing is go out and buy 3 bags of heroin. What I mean is, if you 50 quid, the 3 bags would normally, if you're buying them one at a time, would cost you 60 quid. But if you buy 3 for 50, it's the obvious thing you're going to do. Like,
so you see it as a health issue, not as a criminal
100%
issue. Yeah. Listen,
the problem in our country is that we have crime and punishment.
Yeah,
it's always crime and punishment. You know, it's not crime and rehabilitation. Now, there are some governors in some jails who will look at it like that and will try their best. There are some politicians who will look at it like that and try their best, but there's a huge resistance to it.
The jails are full of drugs. You want drugs, you go to jails. When I was in Magee and it was put on the sort of punishment, I could hear them out the windows talking about what have you got, what can you get me, and it was a wash with drugs. I know people who went to prison for misdemeanors, and because of they couldn't cope, they ended up coming out addicted to heroin. Now, there's heroin here. It's mainly hidden. You know, only a couple of months ago, somebody had given me bags of as you're aware, because I was talking to you about it. But heroin, and you know, so it's all over the place, and the current policies, they're not working.
Haven't worked, Gary, ever.
They're not working. No. See, during your whole, you know, you're in a position now, Brendan, to help people, and I'm sure that you have helped numerous people, conversations.
Well, I like to say I help people help themselves.
Yeah, and you can guide them because you've wore a T-shirt. You know, it's not like somebody who's done a, you know, a whatever course and has never taken it. You wore the T-shirt, and
well, having said that, there's lots of people who weren't in addiction who are also equally very good at what they do.
Yeah,
you know, and like I would always defend that, because I know some people who were never, like my manager where I work, I think is she's a really, really good human being. She's empathy at her core. She's very client centered. She was never strung out on drugs. I don't even know if she ever took a drug. You know.
But there's a question here, Bren. You know, there's a stigma with people who take drugs or who use drugs, and
or who've been to jail,
or who've been de-prison and that. How are you now? Are you experiencing, or have you ever experienced, and this is a question, discrimination as a result of your past? Is there people who would look at you and say, as you did initially when the guy came to your door and get that junkie rat or whatever? I'm not saying that's, but do you still experience any of that discrimination? Or
it's funny because like there'll always be people, first of all, right, that will he's up to something, like, you know, like I have a good job, I drive a car, and I have a motorbike. I like my motorbike, and I like going on spins and stuff, and there's still people that would look and go, oh, he's up to something dodgy. You know, like, but the truth is,
that's human nature. That's
the truth is, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't take drugs. You know, so, you know, and I don't have a mortgage now or any of that stuff. So I'm all right.
Not even the fact that you feel a need to explain that, or you know, it's
but here's the thing, right? I was going to change careers, right? I was getting out of the services.
Why?
I was just
for your,
I was just
or have you had enough of it, or
yeah, I was kind of getting burnt out, like, and I says, and what I do, and then
which is understandable, because if you're dealing with misery and like, you know, on a constant basis, you're bound to end up wearing some of it, and
yeah. So I said, well, do you know what? Dublin Bus are looking for drivers, and Bus Éireann, and I applied. And I was honest. They say, and have you any convictions other than driving convictions, right? Speeding, whatever, you know. And I was honest, and I got an interview for Dublin Bus. Now, in the job I was in previous, I used to interview people. I was the lead on the panel, so I knew exactly what they were looking for. So it was really easy in the interview for me, like. And the way I was speaking to the two people on the panel, there was only two of them, like, they were nearly saying, oh no, you never know what route you'll get and all. They were nearly telling me like I had the job, right? And literally the next day I got an email saying that you're unsuccessful at interview. I had handed them, I had a copy of my previous convictions. And I handed them and I said, look, when you do the Garda clearance, this is what you're going to get back. And I'd hand it over to him, and he says, oh, we don't do Garda clearance. So they don't check up, like.
They don't check.
Yeah, but I was being honest. I was saying, look,
you didn't want to come back and
that's where I was, that's what I don't,
Well, if you didn't, and then they found that out, they say he hasn't changed.
Yeah, but I wasn't doing it for that reason. I was doing it because it was the right thing to do, was to be honest, right? And I believe 100% that the only reason I didn't get that job was because of my previous convictions. You know? So I wasn't given the chance at all. And the same was with Bus Éireann. It was a no, I didn't even get an interview. You know? And what I had done, I went and got my own bus licence. So I wasn't coming to them. I had done the test, I'd passed the test, I'd paid for lessons, I'd paid for the rent of the bus to do me test, cost me a few grand, like, and so they didn't have to train me or do anything, like, you know, and I've no doubt in my mind that it was only because I was honest. So the truth is, if I had been dishonest and not mentioned anything about my previous convictions in the Dublin Bus interview, I would be a bus driver today.
And were they within their rights, or, you know, I know they're not right to doing it because I know you as an individual. I've known you quite a while, but they seen the convictions and went, we're not employing them. And that's the way the situation is at the minute.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe it to be.
Well, that's shocking. Like, it's not, it's
because there's no other reason why I didn't, because I done you have to go out in a car first and they check your driving, you know.
Yeah.
And once you pass that, you go straight into the interview.
Yeah, so you were through all the stages.
Yeah.
Bren, we're coming near the end of time, and look, there's a lot of people interested in this podcast. I think you're a very courageous individual, as much as it pains me to say that to you. It's the Donegal man coming out.
He loves me.
Have you any, look, there's a lot of people interested, and it's a good news story for, there's a lot of people that didn't go half as far down as you, Bren, and are no longer here, or it ended up a completely different.
Yeah.
You've dragged yourself back up from that and are doing a lot of good work. Have you any advice for people that may have been who now maybe turn out to be a young Brendan, or a young Brendan back in the day?
Well, you know what I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to speak to families first. And I speak to mothers and brothers and sisters and see the human behind the behaviour. And although you think maybe little Johnny or little Mary is lost, that they're in there somewhere and they're trying to get back out, and they can't see a way out sometimes, you know. So it's to try and be a little bit more kinder, even though they've robbed your purse 100 times.
Yeah.
And try and get an understanding of addiction and the power of addiction.
Yeah, and what it does to
and what it does to people.
There's something you said, Brendan, that struck out me, and it's the first time I've heard you saying it about that trauma as a child. You know, I think, and you made a comment to me before about fixing children rather than, you know, or keeping children right rather than trying to repair.
Yeah, what I said, I remember that. What I said was, because I wrote a piece about this when I was doing my masters. It's easier to nurture a child than it is to fix an adult. And you got to remember, the children are the parents of our children.
Yeah.
Okay, so the child comes first. So what a child first experiences first, it just re-experiences that, you know. And they're to be our future parents. So we need to nurture them. And if we nurture our children, they'll be able to nurture their children. If you speak to a child about their experience in school, they won't speak academically about it. They'll speak at an emotional level. They'll say what made them happy, what made them sad, what made them angry, you know, what annoyed them. You know, they won't speak academically. But yet we don't really teach our children about their emotions. Yeah. You know, they're trying, it's getting a little bit better, but I'll only say a little bit better, you know. So the whole system has to change, you know. And the truth is, the establishment doesn't want critical thinkers.
No.
You know, and that's the reality, and people that are aware of themselves, you know, because you'll have people that'll stand up, you know, and they won't be happy with the status quo, you know. You won't have as many addicts, you know, because children with self-worth and self-esteem won't engage in a behaviour to escape from how they feel about themselves.
So it's about nurturing, and it's about being positive and telling them that they're worth something rather than you're stupid or you know.
So they don't need anything external.
Yeah.
So if they have that love and that compassion and all that stuff inside themselves, the blind will see it.
Yeah.
And the deaf will hear it.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean to say they're not going to have issues as they grow up or other trauma, but at least they're going to get to that stage, you know, and have a chance.
Well, they'll be able to manage it. They'll be able to manage it. Any kind of emotional car crash that they experience, whether that be a death of a loved one, whether it be a boyfriend or a girlfriend breaking it off, or whatever it might be.
They can turn to a parent or a family member and talk about it. But if they can't talk about that, then it's built up and pent up and can manifest itself in other ways. Have you any?
Just one, which is maybe too personal, so don't answer if you don't want to. Do you ever regret having used anything yourself, or do you feel that it's led to the experiences that you've had that have put you on the path that you are now?
Yeah, I don't know if I never got strung out on drugs, where I'd be where I am today. And it is what it is. You know, there's loads of stuff I regret, you know. But one of the biggest things and the best things that I've done in recovery for myself is I forgave myself. It's key.
And that's important, Brendan.
Yeah, I can't change the past. I've done some things that I'm not proud of.
I think that's important for people to hear.
And that I've forgiven myself for. And I never do them again, you know. That's why it's very important that I make amends. I constantly make amends where I can. I remember this girl, I'll give you an example, and I know we're closing, but this girl I had stolen from our pub. When I was out on bail after stealing from our pub, I attacked her outside the bakery, only down the road from our pub. This is in my own hometown. Not attacked her physically, verbally, but I frightened the life out of her. And then I was a couple of years clean at the time, and I seen her, and I approached her and asked, is there any chance I could speak with you? And she was like that, shocked to see me. Because the last time she seen me, I was strung out and I was full of anger and rage because she done the right thing and called the police because someone broke into our pub. And she just shook her head like that, like she wanted to get away from me. And I just went, oh, sorry, I'm really sorry for bothering you. And I turned and walked away. But for some reason, that intrigued her. That wasn't what she experienced before. So she followed me and she says, what did you want? So I just turned back around and I walked back down to her and I said, I want to apologise to you for how I spoke to you the last time I seen you. I was wrong and I had no excuse to do it. And then I said, secondly, I want to apologise for breaking into your premises. I'd no right to do it and I'd no excuse to do it. Because when I'm apologising, I can't use, oh, well, no, I only done that because I was strung out. And because that's making excuses and it's not real. And I said to her, if there's anything I can do for you, just please say it, and I'll gladly do it. So if that woman wanted me to go out and wash bottles, I would have done it for her, right? But she didn't. That woman stood there for about a half an hour talking to me, and at the end gave me a big hug.
Brilliant.
Asking me what I was doing and how I was getting on.
And that's important too. Sometimes we do make excuses for some things that we know we draw a line, and now I had to do that or I had to say that. And we're full of shit. Like you admit that you're wrong and work it out
and try and move on. I'm not perfect.
No,
I don't pretend to be far from it. Like, you know, I'm just a work in progress. I just keep trying. I make mistakes. You know,
Brendan, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, and this problem isn't going to go away anytime soon. It's very in depth. It's very complex. But listen, we really appreciate you being here, and I have no doubt that the people will listen to this and hopefully will get a lot out of it.
Recovery is possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.